everyone, welcome to a special episode of MNB World Talk Show, dedicated for the very first birthday of MNB World TV channel. Well, the MNB World TV channel is the very first fully English TV channel in Mongolia. Today we have invited various intellectuals of Mongolian modern society to discuss and have a conversation, open conversation about what kind of potentials does Mongolia have in science, arts and culture, and in economy. And today's guests include Vice Minister of Finance Mongolia, Ms. Bolgantuya, Professor of Anthropology, National University of Mongolia, Dr. Bomocher, Scientific Secretary at Institute of Chemistry and Chemical Technology Mongolia, Dr. Adzaya, State-honored cultural worker, Mr. Angoyik, film producer of Guru Media, founder of the Arts Council of Mongolia, Ms. Aruna, economist and founder of De Facto, Mr. Jargalsakh. So thank you for receiving MNB World's talk show's invitation. Let us show you one video and then let's start our conversation, shall we?
Yes.
Sure. All right.
2012, the International Union Against Tuberculosis and the Lung Diseases initiated a first ever randomized clinical trial to evaluate the efficacy, safety and the economic impact of the shortened treatment regimen for multidrug-resistant TB. So the Union partnered with the Clinical Trials Unit of the Medical Research Council UK at the University College London, and the funds were become available from the United States Agency for International Development for this global collaboration. So Mongolia joined this trial in 2014. This study is the first of its kind in our country too, and now undertaken by the National Center for Communicable Diseases and the Mongolian Tuberculosis Coalition. So the STREAM study is not only a global collaboration to produce a high-level evidence for the treatment of multidrug-resistant TB, but also a local good collaboration of government and non-government organizations. The study, which evaluated shortened treatment regimen of 9 months versus 24-month treatment regimen. And we show that the long duration of 2 years of treatment can be replaced with a shortened regimen. So this is a great achievement globally. WHO, World Health Organization, last year has updated confidently their guidelines on drug-resistant TB to treat patients with multidrug-resistant TB with a shortened regimen.
Well, Ms. Adzaya, we've just watched a short video about how Mongolia is having achievement in treating tuberculosis. Where are we in global competition regarding science? And how do we define or know where we are in this competition?
Actually, I would not to say that the Mongolian science at the same stage with the international level now. It is definitely and fully dependent on the funding. Funding, right. For example, in the developed countries, the fundings by the government is paid to about up to 5% in the worldwide, right? In some countries like Israel and China and the
5% of what?
5% of the domestic gross production.
Domestic gross
So,
production.
but in our countries, so it is about 0.7, right? Up to 0.07% of the domestic gross production is paid by our government in science, right? So you see that how it takes two difference between this data, right?
5%
Yeah.
and 0.07.
Right, 0.07.
It's regarding this funding.
Yeah.
So I want to ask, so we have the Deputy Minister of Finance here. So what do you think about this? And can we increase this amount?
Now, this is definitely an ongoing discussion with the science community, but we do have to take into consideration that this amount is only the fund that has been provided from the state budget. However, on the other hand, companies also do some R&D work, which is never reported, because the current financial statements does not exactly capture the amount that has been committed to R&D from private entities or even from the NGOs. So number one, I think we need to improve on the accounting because I think we could be reporting much less than it should have. But to tell the truth, especially in the last 3-4 years, increase in science has increased, actually by twofold.
Twofold?
By twofold. So
Okay.
when in 2016, for instance, what is called Science and Technology Fund, which sits under the Ministry of Education, Science and Sports, used to have about 6 billion MNT. Now that has been increased to 10, in the next year around 12 billion turks.
Well, I want to ask from Mr. Bomacher. I've asked where we are in the global scale competition. How do we define where we are?
It's a very big question.
Okay.
It depends on if you are asking a certain academic institution, like the National University of Mongolia, or the Academy of Sciences, or if you are talking about a certain Mongolian scholar who's been highly cited internationally. So there are different, let's say, methods to evaluate where we are. And if we talk about, let's say, about individual scholars, if they have been globally, internationally cited, yes, we do have number of scholars who's been cited, but I'm not sure whether they can compete in the world. So what I want to say is, yes, Mongolian individual scholars, they are going up there, but not the institutions. We have not few number of scholars who are working in foreign institutions, like in United States, mainly because we don't have enough funding to fund the research.
Fortunately, there is a country's competitiveness report for 2018. According to that, out of 63 countries ranked in this report, Mongolia takes 62nd place, just before Venezuela. It is not only money issue, it is a competition issue. This is a freedom to academicians issue, which is not the case. Because R&D, research and development in Mongolia, are not directly connected with those who are creating it. They have an they don't have that freedom of selling their innovation to the market. It's a matter of connection of businesses and science. That connection should be based on free market mechanism.
Mongolia as a country will probably commit more to sports, horse racing, than probably we do to science.
Well, that's not secret. Everybody is watching. Ms. Erona?
Yeah, because I think to be scientist, it's almost similar as to be artist, because it's you come up with. Yes, I think art and science is very much connected, because what it connects is it's about creativity. And there is World Creativity Index exists, and then it's decomposed from the criteria. First of all, of course, the freedom of expression, and then second is technology is innovation, and then third is language, because the country is the highest highest World Creativity Index are, of course, America, all these English-speaking countries, and then Singapore, because Singaporean education system is based on English language. So it's matter of language, it's education. Our competitiveness of the scholars, it's not only what we want to create, it's also a matter of language and to be globally competitive as creators.
So don't we have anything to shine in the scientific sphere?
Of course we have.
We have, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about potentials here.
Yeah,
So,
because in my opinion, the Mongolian scientist has the full of the potential to compete at the international level if the conditions, that if some condition is solved, like social issues and the working spaces and some high-rating instrumental analysis, if we have in that case. So, for example, I brought today this small catalog.
So innovation product
that is published by our institute. I'm from the Institute of Chemistry and Chemical Technology, and then we chemists were doing some innovation products based on the long-term study results. I mean, finally, I say that Mongolian scientist has full of the potential to produce the product which can be competed with the international products.
Global products that are being sold in global markets.
It's only one example.
Only one example. This book is full of patents,
So
original patents, innovations.
Right. So this product has already confirmed by the international patents, which means the international scientists already approved.
They approved.
Right.
But it's just sitting there. It's
but
not
it is
on the market.
just
It's just
not in the market. It's just in the shelf of the science.
We have to get into our next topic, which is arts and culture, and we'll have a really hot conversation. But before that, let's take a look at one video that we prepared.
So when you Western person see Who's, they see them something new, but it's acceptable. Why? Because the original, the melody in of Who is based on traditional Mongolian music, which been around 1,000 years. But the technique, the technology, whatever instruments, the beats, whatever it says, it's very Western. So it's a bridge actually between Oriental and Western culture. Well, as I said, Who opened the big gates and a door for Mongolian modern culture, which is now the whole global market, and people are now interested and they look back to Mongolia.
Well, the Who, we all know, and so many people around the globe are talking about the Who band. So what do you guys think the secret was? Because we have had a long time that we didn't have this kind of cultural exposure in the world. From Mr. Nahwi, what do you think the secret is?
Arts and culture is renewable.
Renewable?
While the minerals are, someday they will finish. This, in that term, we probably need to rely more on this potential of our cultural heritage, especially. Well, the Who, many people even in Mongolia are surprised they are doing so well. Some are just simply jealous.
It's become a phenomenon, I mean.
Yeah. I think they exactly turned into our cultural heritage, into history, and they are trying to showcase some energy which existed back probably during this great Mongolian Empire, probably even earlier. To my mind, the main thing is this energy.
energy.
Yeah, I think I agree with Hoiga because I read one review that they were saying that this is the testosterone boom. You know, they said that this is because this hormone is decreasing worldwide because of globalization, because of lifestyle. So they were saying it's the first of all because this energy is really the boom of this masculine energy.
I have seen interview of Mr. Dashtondo, who said that he was preparing it for more than 10 years.
More than 10 years?
Yes, it's a great market research, the need of modern rock world, and to see not only Mongolia, he see from the beginning world stage. That's what we need in every entrepreneur rendezvous in Mongolia.
To me, it looks like we need international know-how because the management is done by American company. So they know how to promote, to manage the company, to label it, as you say. But anyhow, let us show you one movie trailer, which Ms. Aruna worked on the Mongolian production side, and this is called A Bigger World. And this movie has got over 300,000 viewers in Paris, France, only in 1 month, isn't it? Let's take a look at that trailer.
Tu te souviens de cette série de docu sur la spiritualité à travers le monde?
Les chamans peuvent communiquer avec les morts? Oui.
C'est ton destin.
Tu crois pas que tu devrais quand même aller consulter, voir un médecin?
Écoutez, si à chaque fois que vous entendez du tambour, vous vous prenez pour un loup, il y a quand même un petit problème, vous croyez pas?
Et si c'était Paul qui m'appelait? Peut-être qu'ils ont raison, les chamans. Peut-être que j'ai accès à un autre monde, pourquoi pas? Tu repars pas en Mongolie pour faire avancer la science. Ça dérange qui? Moi, ça me dérange. Tes pouvoirs grandissent. T'es en train de devenir complètement taré, tu te rends même pas compte. J'essaie juste d'aller mieux, Louise. Qu'est-ce que j'ai à perdre?
Pas un peu de ma gueule, votre grand-mère?
Juste avant de mourir, on s'est juré qu'on se reverrait.
Well, all right, we watched the trailer. What did you learn from working on this kind of film production?
Yeah, it's not only my first international co-production. I worked in many international productions, and a new tendency in the film industry is now more involvement in women. Because usually the film industry is mainly man-driven industry, but this time, because our director, DOP, writer, second assistant director, entire crew, there was 30 French crew, only 3 men, 27 women. But the Mongolian production was opposite, 4 women, 26 men. So it's also it shows like the way the tendency goes in generally film industry. Secondly, what was interesting is because I personally knew that Mongolia has lots of potential to tell story to the global viewers.
Untold stories.
Untold stories, yeah. And then it's again same with the WHO, like because there's so many shamanism, development happening last few years in Mongolia, and there is, even in Mongolia, we have adopts, like sometimes we don't believe it, do you have to believe in it or not? But very surprisingly, our director, the author, because it's a novel-based story, and they had no question. Because they have no question, because the beautiful part of that was, because humanity is seeking for the peace in the heart, I think. They're seeking who they are, and then, and they're seeking be reconnected with the nature, because the shamanism is greatly powered by nature. So all these things that are very grounded for us, The things
taken
that
for granted.
yes, taken for
Mongolians.
granted. For them, it's a kind of lost connections.
There's
so
a space that we Mongolians can feel with our already have knowledge.
Of course.
I want to ask from Mr. Bomocher about the national identity versus globalization. Do we? I mean, in the world, people are talking about globalization. Our younger generation are being globalized. They are all watching YouTube, and all the younger generation are becoming the same. And yet, at the same time, some people are trying to show the, identification, the national identity. So, what is your take on this? For Mongolia, from your perspective, what should we do?
Identity is something we make and remake and
Remake.
keep on making. So it's not something static. It is something. It's a process. So the film, it is a process to make and remake Mongolian national identity. So I would say it's a great contribution. All these artworks. It is making a great contribution to Mongolian national identity. Imagine shamanism. I know some of us do not believe in it. It doesn't matter. It stands as an important element to reproduce certain part of Mongolian national identity and the whole as well. I mean, the whole. I mean, in the international world in academia, we use the word "sungno" for "hunno," but because of the word "the whole," now the world knows. Well, the "sungnu" is the Chinese version of the word of the name of the "hunno," but the Mongolian version is finally it's the "hunno." It's whole. I mean,
so we are remaking it.
This is making probably much larger, let's say, effect than our academics produced.
I want to ask from Mr. Jaga. So, having strong national identity, how will it help economically for us? How? I mean, not economically.
Before going to that,
that's a difficult question.
This identification issue, identity.
Identity.
These two pieces of arts, a good example of reshaping our identity as Mongolians worldwide. Movie industry is prerequisite of proper tourism industry. So I guess, for example, as a result of this wonderful movie, people would come to Sugulavik more.
Absolutely.
And they should identify a particular place where that woman was sitting or crying. So there should be rocks or something that people come and feel. That will, the
family.
flow of the tourists. That's what's happening all around the world. After Hollywood shooting, New Zealand take it, Avatar, everywhere. That's the tourism. So we should be ready. Now I think our tourist companies should prepare from now what kind of products they can sell, what they can buy. That's the money, that's the promotion we want. That's why movie industry is so important for movie tourism industry.
Yeah, I think it's very, very important. This is one of the very controversial issues I always face. Because when we do international co-production, because Mongolian side believe that world needs to see our Genghis Khan. And we say, the artists say, and then, but world is sometimes Genghis Khan is a great Khan, sometimes it's a conqueror, sometimes it's just a man, millennium man. It's a very, very diverse. He has a diverse, and so what global viewers want to see is contemporary story about contemporary Mongolia, and then they kind of, bit tired of all this very nomadic, idealistic pictures of horse racing, this. It's so important, the contemporary dramas is important. So I see it as a platform,
This is quite interesting because 1/3 of our population is under the age of 18, right? Over 60% is under the age of 35. And the young people, they are much more visionary, they're dreamers. They don't really want to be accountants or lawyers, right? And they want to pursue, especially in the 21st century, looking at the world. When we had to choose our major, we were told, okay, you're good at math, you'd be an economist, right?
Yeah.
So now, actually, they're looking at movies. They want to choose a major that they can be good at, and sometimes they
That
don't
even
even
does not exist now
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
It's a brand
So
new profession.
some of them, they realize that it's probably difficult to make a living, but yet they still want to pursue it. So the next generation, I think, with their language skills, with their international education, they can probably go out and compete in the world easily.
Last night I saw Arirang channel, and there was a K-pop, a very young female star of K-pop, and she produced a clip, and the whole clip is around our central square. In Mongolia.
Very cheap.
Very cheap.
I see that we have lots of potential, especially in contemporary Mongolia. Let's not talk too much about our Genghis Khan. Let's start talking about contemporary Mongolia. And in contemporary Mongolia, in arts and cultural field, we have so much potential, like as we discussed. Well, our next topic is economy.
And so our cluster was officially established on September 9th this year. This is just 2 months ago. And then we had our first general meeting 3 months ago. And then in the 3 months, we could achieve a lot because for the past 1 year, we have been talking about like what we need and what we should do and have to improve the legal environment and have to prepare for facing the requirements of European Union and then have to export to Europe and also have to attract the local customers, local consumers in our country. So that's why like it's been so easy for us since we have the same idea and same heart, and it's been great to work together, and in the 3 months we have achieved a lot, including we have introduced the ISO 16128 standard, which is about the natural and organic cosmetics ingredients standards. And so we are planning to achieve more, and we have been so hungry and we have been so excited to go to Europe, and we have the European Union EU Trump project, and also we have the Mongolian National Chamber of Commerce and Industry to help us and to mentor us to fulfill our purpose to export to Europe. And we're planning several expos next year in Europe.
Well, we've just watched about a Mongolian eco-cosmetic product cluster. So I want to start this session from Ms. Bolontoya. How will supporting small and medium enterprises benefit Mongolian economy?
SMEs, small and medium enterprises, make up about 80% of our registered entities. So, and also it creates the biggest employment in Mongolia, SMEs and also our agricultural sector. But on the other hand, for instance, mining sector attracts about 70-80% of foreign direct investment. Yet the employment it creates is quite minimal. What the government has been trying to do is, number one, for instance, especially to EU, we have over 700 products that can be exported to European Union, exempt of many of the customs and the taxes. Cluster, what is happening is that, especially for the Mongolian SMEs to export abroad, a great number of services need to be acquired. So they get together and they acquire the service on collectively, which makes it much cheaper for per company. I think the Mongolian companies say there are 2-3 things that are of much more importance. Number one, it's skilled labor force. Number two, of course, it's funding, especially for our SMEs, it's funding. Number three, it's trying to get out into the market. Because I could be producing something, we could be good at something, right? And if we don't export, we will just be competing domestically on our small market with our prices. None of us actually making a great profit, and probably some of us have to close our doors very soon.
We are trying to make products here, but China is making products with much less labor force spending. How do we compete with that?
That's why we need to find the niche.
Yes.
The
Niche?
particular
What's
niche
niche?
market. What we have in the cluster of the cosmetics. They more driving and marketing forces to be the truly natural quality of their raw materials. This country has no chemical industry. Okay? Originally, everything is originally correct place, organic. So we should not sell, for example, our meat at the price of domestic market. We should sell it as a particular meat, which should be 10 times more. It's like Wagyu beef in Japan. That's the marketing we should do. Instead, we are just selling even with the feet, the animals just as it is. So we need to be create very interesting marketing.
Even though we want to export, even though we want to market, even though we want to get to the world market, it's still never going to be, we're never going to be able to compete on massive scales and economies of scale with China. But on the other hand, we can export something like what the arts and culture is doing, nomadic, back to the nature, harmonious with the world. This is the movement that's going on all around the world, and we're right in the center of it, actually.
But talking about that, I want to drag the conversation to mining. Did you have any?
Well, I would like to mention two things on this economy issue. In our second session, you asked us about national identity and art.
Yes.
I want to make a very quick comment on national identity and economy, because we are now known in the rest of the world as mining country.
Yes,
which is exactly mine oil. It's actually Bolag, in the Mongolian scholar, who's now basing at Cambridge. He came up with this term, and anyways, this is becoming a large burden on our national identity in terms of economy, because we are becoming known as a mining country. The rest of the world are not interested on us very much on other sectors, I guess. So it's becoming a kind of
not mining to blame. Mining
Well,
is feeding us.
I
It's
know.
giving the
But
How you can sit here without mining?
No. I'm not saying that we should stop mining. I'm saying that we should diversify our national identity on what we have. As you mentioned, that's the eco products or natural products, as the video said. So we should basically be really quick in terms of management, everything, and quickly diversify our identity, which is becoming like overly mining.
Yeah.
And I know some of our politicians try to do that.
No, on this point, you're right, I agree. We are earning 85% of our export earning of hard currency is mining. We cannot avoid it in next 10 or 20 years, at least. But the issue is, do we use the mining proceeds in the way you were suggesting? Do we diversify our economy? And what do we need for that? It's a matter of having, again, not spending for current consumption, this money coming.
Can I just jump in very quickly and go on? I'm really happy. I think I may announce this. I have a book coming from UCL Press in London. I did my postdoc there, and the title of my book is Shaping Neoliberal Policies, State, Popular Mobilization, and Gold Mining in Mongolia. Okay. The main focus of this book is, what about cultural perspectives of Mongolians regarding mining? We have huge conflict happening between, as you mentioned, those local people, mostly herders and miners, and the whole country is being kind of divided between into these divisions. And now we are kind of sitting like, okay, what happened? Mongolians get so sick to see disturbed land. They basically feel
this is
sick.
a description of facts, current situation. What do you suggest?
Yeah, solutions. Let's talk about solutions now.
May I suggest? I have a solution suggestion.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking. Yeah, I think first of all we need success stories on small, medium enterprises. because we need success story that people can see and then see that they can be involved with not only in mining, also I can produce something else. The second, I think you're saying that the Mongolia is, I totally agree that, because international businesses, because when they come, they have to really make study, you know, on our cultural basis, and then they have to communicate from the very beginning all these cultural aspects in their communication.
This is how they communicate. The investors, when they come in, they say, we will create this much employment. Mm-hmm. How many, and then like 50% will be women. And we're like almost in all sectors of employment, there's almost 50% women. So it's nothing new to me, right? And they're like, they're talking about it as if it is something that is unforeseen before. And then they will say, we will give you this much for tax. And what we are much more concerned of is how you're going to be rehabilitating the land, right? Mm-hmm. And what is the impact to the environment? What is the impact to the society there, the local community there?
How do we develop different sectors and cut down mining a little bit? Okay, it is.
Mining can exist.
Mining can
exist.
But how can we develop other sectors, and what kind of sectors do we have so potential, so ready to expose to the world, and that we could make a fast revenue? What do you think on this?
The priorities has been from the government support agriculture, SME, and also tourism. And another sector that we're also bringing in is arts and culture, the creative industry, exactly. So this is also another area. Right?
That's what we keep talking for quite some time, and nothing is done in particular.
Nothing done. In creative center, nothing done yet.
Yes. Only cash cow of this country is
still the
mining.
Yes.
And it will be mining.
Yeah,
Sorry to say. I should mention two things. This refinery in Mongolia, in spite of all these rumors, it's going to be a reality.
Oh yes, I was going to ask about the two neighbors' influence in our economy.
Yeah.
How do
if you make a refinery, if we domestically make our products, our gasoline products, then we will make economy of $1.4 billion we pay to Russia. First. Secondly, now the pipeline we talk about this year, now it is becoming a need for the two neighbors to go through Mongolia, whether we like or not, whether we have asked it or not. We have asked many years, but they need to go now through Mongolia, because the Western sanction against the northern stream and the Ukraine issue, etc. So Mongolia will be soon having two bigger projects, refinery and pipeline. It's a reality. In 6 years we have a refinery. In 5 years we have 6 years in a pipeline. In 5 years a refinery.
How will the economy benefit?
Quite much. Pipeline through Mongolia, 1,000 kilometers. We will, at least with the minimal estimation, we will make every year $300 million. Every day $1 million.
Every day?
Yes, about. And we will have in the form of...
that sounds like a magic.
But that will create a lot of problem with the current level of quality of the governance.
For many years I advocate arm's length policy in the field of arts and culture. I think to a certain extent it can apply to economy as well. Arm's length policy is when the government is not involved in everything. We are with the government on an arm's length distance. So not everything mixed up, the politicians mixed up with the businesses, and we know the results, what usually happens after that. So it should be a certain distance between businesses and the government and the politics.
Regarding the economy, we have talked about potentials and our problems and possible solutions, and I think our viewers did have some important information or different angles or possible investment stories. Well, this has been the special episode of MNB World Talk Show dedicated for first anniversary of MNB World Television, and we had a pleasant conversation with all these intellectuals, and I hope you had a pleasant time. On behalf of MNB World Talk Show, we would like to say Happy New Year to all of the Mongolians abroad living outside Mongolia, and also Happy New Year to all of our global viewers. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.